we get to learn from Dale Jolly of the UVU Neuromarketing Smart Lab. Dale, come up to the stage. Let's see what you're going to teach us about e-commerce performance with biometric testing.
All right. Thank you for sticking around. You guys are the smart ones. We are going to show you some amazing stuff today. Stuff that a lot of chief marketing officers, CEOs don't know about. It's still that new, that cutting edge. Who's heard of biometric testing before in here? I see one hand, two hands, just a few here and there. We're actually going to give you a short lesson on it today, but we want you to know what the UVU Smart Lab is first. So as it says, I'm the director of the lab. I came out of the pharmaceutical and biotech industry after 25 years. And so companies like Pfizer, AstraZeneca, you probably heard of those. Those were companies that I worked for and worked on their sales and marketing campaigns. Some of our marketing campaigns were definitely more successful than others. You look at some of those commercials that you watch on different drugs, and you ever think, I don't even know what that was for. Those were things that I was signing off on, and I wish we would have had these tools available so that we could make them more effective. So it's what we do at the Smart Lab is we make your job easier. Basically, we are housed at Utah Valley University. This is our new building, and we are a business within the university. So all of these gentlemen in the white lab coats, don't let them scare you. They are researchers. They've done their undergrads, they're in graduate programs. A lot of them will go on to PhD programs, they'll go to medical programs. Some will just get great jobs because this is the most advanced marketing research available. And so we're going to tell you about how that works. This is an award-winning team. This is just a sample of some of the awards that we've won. We have another award that should be up there, but this team has been made up of several smart people. And I have been the recipient of these amazing students that have come through and do this work. They get this great experience, but they make me look good. And I'm very grateful for them. So when you look at it, you think, what is biometric testing? Some of you are saying, I've heard a little bit about this facial coding or tracking of a person's expressions. Well, we're going to go into more depth on this. It basically is what biometric testing tells us about your marketing campaigns is the non-conscious response. So you have a website, you'd come to us, we would test it. While it's being tested, we could get these responses that are the automatic reflex to what people think as soon as they go to your website. They might be looking at your commercials. It might be your product packaging. We test all of these things and we get you an unbiased response. The automatic reflex to when someone sees it, where did their eyes go? How did they feel emotionally? How did they feel physiologically as well? And we do that with these tools that you see listed. So as you see the list, we do eye tracking, which we're going to be demonstrating today. We're going to give you a flavor of what that looks like. What are the outputs that I get from eye tracking? Then we also have EEG. Anyone know what that stands for? Very nice. Electroencephalogram. That's a mouthful. I'm very impressed that you can say that. A lot of us just go with EEG because electroencephalogram is a mouthful. And we're going to show you how that device works and where it goes on your body. Then we also have what's called GSR. Who knows what GSR stands for? Galvanic skin response. It's based on lie detector technology, but it tells us your physiologic response to what you're experiencing, any type of stimuli. And I'll tell you where we utilize that as well. The last technology that we utilize is called facial coding. So right now, we could have the facial coding going on any one of you, and I could tell you how you're feeling emotionally at this point about what you're seeing, what you're experiencing, without even asking you. So these are all things that we can collect on you without even talking to you about it. The tools collect this information for us. So we're going to go through these first. I have a model that's going to come up here. This is Jacob. He'll be one of our models. The first technology I want to talk about is the eye tracking glasses. Anyone want to take a guess at what these glasses cost? Yes, in the back. $30,000 is exactly right. That's $30,000. That's your car, basically, right there. The cost of your car in his hands. So these glasses are eye tracking glasses. We use them in live environments. So think about if you own a store and you're saying, you know what, we have this planogram, we're wondering when people come in the door, are they looking at banners? Are they looking at certain products? Do we have it merchandised correctly? We've used these with dealerships. Different new car dealerships will come to us and say, I would like you to walk through our showroom floor, and I'm curious as to what's standing out and what's not standing out. One of our studies indicated those great big decals that you see on the floor, the big stickers, those aren't real effective in our studies. That people will be standing on them and they won't even look at them. They won't even know that they were there. And how much do those stickers cost, those decals? Pretty fair amount of money. You might want to think twice about utilizing those. So our studies have said they're not the most effective way to capture someone's attention. These glasses, they have 4 cameras on the inside. So if you look at the lower rim, if you were up close, you would see these 4 little dots. Those are cameras that are looking back at Jacob's eyes. There's a camera out the front so that we can see what he's looking at if he was scanning this room, or if we had Jacob go throughout the building, I could tell you exactly what captured his attention or what did not capture it. There's also the ability to record his comments as he walks around. And those little comments, we call them verbatims, those are important comments. When someone says, that looks expensive, that looks weird, that's confusing, we want to capture those and pass those on to the client and say, this is where they were looking, this is what they were expressing verbally. They're verbatims. We're really the messenger here. We collect this information, this data, we pass it on, but we give you recommendations with the findings as well. So these glasses are phenomenal. These have been used in athletics. You know, you get a quarterback and you're wondering, where is he most accurate when he throws the ball? And we could put those glasses on him and we could find that out. The basketball team at Utah Valley University did really well this year. They're asking if they can utilize these glasses to do training. No way. Can you imagine? It's 30 grand, right? I could just see the elbow to the face, but they would like to utilize them to see, when you come down a basketball court, why are some people better at reading the court, just knowing who's going to be in a certain position? Soccer players, why are some better at reading the field? We can capture that with these glasses. So think in terms of live environments for the eye tracking glasses. Now we have another eye tracker that we're going to utilize today. And we're actually going to use it and demonstrate it with someone on stage here in a little bit. And it is an eye tracking bar. So what you see is the eye tracker itself. This shoots an infrared beam into your eyes and back on the screen. That's what's going to happen today. We'll bring someone up here in front of this monitor. The eye tracker is mounted there. And so we could bring up your website, for instance, and that would help us to tell where are they looking, where are they not looking. If you set it up with a pattern, the F pattern or the Z pattern, we can tell you if that's what's taking place. How are they navigating your website? What components of your website are capturing attention and which ones are not? If you gave them a task, is it difficult for them to complete? How do they go about doing that? We found differences in baby boomers versus Gen Zs, millennials, in how we even go about a search. And we find that people, in my case, baby boomers, we're still using the drop downs. And we're driving you guys crazy, aren't we? Because you're thinking you can just type it in. It's much easier just to type in what you're looking for. So we know there's a difference in how different age groups go about utilizing websites as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Here's what some of the outputs look like. This is called a heat map. And this is a study that was done with 106 participants. And so the first ad was the ad that this diaper company was going to go with. And if you look at it, you think, well, we're selling diapers. And they tried to get clever. Do you notice the baby's pointing at his diaper as well? Most people didn't even notice that. This is an aggregate view of everyone that looked at that first ad. And they tried to get clever. No one noticed the baby really pointing at the diaper, or very few people did. Did they notice the baby's face? Oh, yes. So the way you read a heat map is almost like when a storm's coming through. You're watching the weather map come through, and the green is you getting your bearings when an ad comes up. Then the yellow means that there was more interest there. The red means there was a lot of interest. The problem is we don't know if that was positive interest or negative interest. Just because you see red there doesn't mean that everybody liked the baby. And I know that sounds cruel. You're thinking, well, everybody likes a baby, right? Maybe not. So we have to ask them questions. We supplement the eye tracking with, why did you spend so much time looking at the baby? And we want to make sure that we're not making assumptions to why we understand what took place. So this was the first ad. You look at it, it did okay. It's actually a better ad for selling babies than for selling diapers. Illegal to do, selling babies, but this is the ad. We've discovered it right here. So when you look at it, not a lot of attention went to the diapers or even the product logo itself. Now, the recommendation based on this came back and said, you've got the right components of a good ad. You need to make one adjustment. What's that adjustment? Cute baby, what's he looking at? All of a sudden, you can direct their gaze and look at how much more yellow and red we have on that second ad. So we help companies take a good ad and make it a great ad, with just simple eye tracking like that. The other thing that we can do with this, we could tell you exactly in what order someone looked at that ad. If you wanted them to do it in a certain order, it's called a gaze plot. And a gaze plot would be a bunch of little circles on there with a number inside them. And it would tell us numerically what was the order in which you looked at this. The bigger the circle, the longer someone looked there. So that's a gaze plot. Those are two of the outputs we get, the heat map and then a gaze plot. And we can base actionable data on those findings to help you make your ads better, your commercials better, your websites better as well. Okay, so we're going to go from there. Now we're going to get into the brain a little bit. And we're going back to that term, electroencephalogram, that this gentleman knew. I'm actually impressed. How did you know that term?
My son got one last week.
Oh, very nice. So it's fresh on the brain.
Yes.
Very good. Yeah, so an electroencephalogram is this device. And believe it or not, these are pretty pricey devices. This strip alone is about $200. That might allow us to test maybe 30 people with it. This goes on the individual's head, and this will tell us how hard their brain is working, where did they get bored, where did they get excited, where were they really engaged in your website. And so that gives us that non-conscious response to how hard is your brain working, what's really capturing the attention there. So electroencephalogram. We're going to talk about how we utilize some of these technologies together as well in combination to get you even better results. So thank you for showing that. This is how the readout looks though. When you see a graph of an EEG, you can see that it's measuring engagement, distraction, drowsiness, workload. And as you go across that top line, it has all these green levels, right? So that's looking at engagement. You're probably not going to have someone at maximum engagement the entire time to where they're peaking out. Because what happens is when we look at something or experience something, our engagement goes up. But then we say, I got it. I understand what's going on. So if we see it drop a little, that's not a bad thing. Because you're saying, okay, I got it. I'm on to the next thing. Show me something else that's going to keep my engagement. So these areas have sweet spots that we want you to be within. This lowest one is the workload, how hard your brain is working to actually understand, say, a website. And so we have a certain range, the sweet spot we want that to be within. It's okay if your brain, if you have a website, and sometimes people are looking at it and they're saying, okay, my brain's working really hard here, but we don't want it to be at maximum capacity the whole time. Because if it's too hard, you're going to say, I'm leaving this website. I can't do this anymore. It's too hard. But we don't want it too easy either because you're not going to be engaged in it. But this is what the output looks like with an EEG or the electroencephalogram as well. Then we have galvanic skin response. Has anyone ever had one of these on their hand? That's a good thing. That would have told us that you were probably in jail at one point because it's based on lie detector technology. So this is basically a lie detector. We don't use it for those purposes, although we have before. We had one of our researchers in the lab. He came to work one day, and one of his fellow researchers said, hey, let's check this thing out. Let's see if this thing works. So he hooks up his partner. He said, okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions, and let's see how it graphs out. Are your eyes blue? The gentleman says yes. Is your hair brown? Yes. Is your father alive? Yes. Have you ever stolen anything? And this thing starts going like this. And this guy goes, I am not going to answer that. And he walks out of the lab. Came back the next day, and he told us, he said, you guys, I've stolen before. And we all started laughing because we could tell. This thing works that way because it will get that physiological response that we're trying to capture. Now, where we use it is if you had a video. For instance, we have a client out of Midway, Utah, and they have some extreme outdoor sports equipment. And they have the ice picks and all these ice axes, things like that. And they had this really cool video of someone parachuting out of a plane, and it was a GoPro style. And they were saying, I wonder how engaging that is physiologically. Does that get someone excited? So it was a 10-minute video they put on their website. And so we tested it. And it's you in the plane, and it's that first-person view, and you fall out of the plane. And with this device, we could tell you exactly what they were doing. And sure enough, it was peaking. All of a sudden, you're going up, you're falling down, and even watching a video, this device said they had the right video. It was too long, though, right? You don't want to sit there for 10 minutes. So we went and we said, right video, but you've got to find a shorter video to put on your website. This device helps us with a study we just did on movie trailers back in December. We tested the menu with this device. Anyone see the menu? Yeah, and the tension would build. We could tell at different parts of that movie trailer when the tension was building, we could see it physiologically. So those that make movies, if you're trying to get a certain physiological response, this device will tell us, are you getting that? Then where do they relax again? And then where does it come up? We'll go to the next one. Oh, this is the GSR example. This just basically tells us that if there's resistance, that's you tensing up when you're watching the menu, for instance. The conductance, all of a sudden, you start to relax a little bit. And those are important measurements that we utilize when we're testing your marketing campaigns. Now, this is one that I mentioned that I could actually analyze your faces at this point. We make 3,000 different combinations with our face, believe it or not. And those can be boiled down to 9 different emotions. And so these are the 9 different emotions that are listed. You see the joy, you see the anger, surprise, fear. And so the way that this works is this was a movie trailer on Avatar, the latest Avatar. And so we were analyzing people's faces to see what emotion were they feeling. Because remember, we're trying to get that non-conscious response, that automatic reflex. And so you can see there was a lot of sadness, and there was some joy at first at the beginning, but then it just dropped off. And look at the sadness, though, that occurred. This is a movie trailer that was about, 2 minutes long, somewhere in there, that we were measuring. And we were trying to see how it compared to other movie trailers that were coming out at that same time. So that is another measure we could get. We can get the emotional response that you're probably hoping you're getting. We can tell you if it's not working too. We've used this technology training salespeople, and we could tell them, when you think you're being real slick or you're telling a lie, people catch it. And all of a sudden, boy, do the negative emotions come in. And so we say, don't do it. You think you're getting something by them, it's not working. They're capturing it. So that's what facial coding will do for us. Now, this was an interesting study where we used technologies in combination with each other. So this was a study. Jennifer Lopez is the spokesperson for an organization that wants your money to support hospitals. And one of those hospitals is Primary Children's Hospital here in Utah. So they brought us a radio spot, and we were able to use the EEG for the radio spot, because you're not looking at anything. But the commercials for the TV spots, we tested with eye tracking, and then we used the EEG as well. And so using these technologies together, she goes through this commercial and it says, hi, I'm Jennifer Lopez. We all have kids. Sometimes they get hurt. Sometimes they get sick. Sometimes we don't have money to pay their hospital bills. That's why there's this organization that collects your money and gives it to these 176 hospitals. So, and then she shows the kids in the hospital. Then at the end, it shows Jennifer by herself. And she says, please join me in donating to this organization on behalf of Primary Children's Hospital. And she does this, just like you see her hand, right? Up like that. They're actually hoping that you're going to see a hospital band right here that says Children's Miracle Network, and that's where your focus is going to go, that's reinforcing the organization. Where do you see the eyes go? They did go there for a little bit, but where else did they go? Yeah, about $500,000 worth of rings sitting there. The intent to donate, what do you think happened to that? Yeah, because she looks too rich, right? So you look at this. This is what they did. Our recommendations came back. They said, you made Jennifer look too rich. A lot of people like her. She's a beautiful lady. Get rid of the jewelry, for starters. And this was made in Hollywood. And they were a few $1 million into this whole campaign. And they didn't like UVU saying, you guys missed something really important. You missed the jewelry. And people said, are you kidding? We said, is there a way to go ahead and maybe edit that out? I said, that's pretty tough. It's even tougher to get her to come in again. And you can imagine what you're going to pay her to come in and do a reshoot. So this was a big miss by a Hollywood production, and they put it out there, and it wasn't that successful. So then future campaigns, look what they did. They dressed down people. They got rid of the jewelry for the most part. They wanted T-shirts, bring it down to the average person's level so that people can relate to it. Then they'll donate to it. The other thing, too, people were a little bit bothered that she wasn't in the commercial with the kids. It shows, her at the beginning, goes to the kids in the hospital that need your money, and they're thinking, well, if you care about these kids, why aren't you in there holding them? That was something else. Show me that you're really invested in the whole process as well. But those were things that came out that they just completely missed, and these are professionals that have done this for years. They miss at times. And our job is to help them to make it even better, to capture those misses and say, how do we make it better? So what can the Smart Lab do for you? We can put actionable data behind your decisions. A lot of people these days do just what I did years ago, put together a marketing campaign. We went with our gut. Everybody in favor, say aye. We roll it out there. And we were in such a cash-rich industry, in the pharmaceutical biotech industry, sometimes we go, whoops, and sometimes we could laugh it off. That's not happened so much anymore. We're looking for people that have data behind their decisions. Why did you put the logo here? The data supported it. If you want to keep doing things and going with your gut, you're going to do what Michael Phelps said. He got what he deserved yesterday, he said in one of his Olympics. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get what you deserve if you keep going with your gut and you don't put some data behind it. Some of you say, but I'm pretty good with my gut. Well, that's good, but sometimes you're going to miss. And for me, coming from senior management of different companies, having data behind your decisions to support you is job security. Instead of saying, well, my gut told me, well, your gut's not as good as you thought. Now, your gut will get you partway, but why not have data behind your decisions to say, this is the way we set up our website. This is why we structured the ad the way we did. Data is there to support you. We've got more access to it. You saw some great data from Dave Wright today. Love that. Why aren't we utilizing more of that? The lab is there to help put data behind your decisions, to help you make the most effective website, to have the best product packaging, to make the best video so that you're not reshooting a commercial that should have been done right the first time. So we can help validate those gut feelings. So we've talked a lot about it. I think we need to show you how this works. What do you think? So we are looking for a volunteer to come up and be eye-tracked. So who's feeling it today that would be willing to come up and sit in front of the screen? You come? She beat you a little bit. So what's your name? Taylor. Welcome. Taylor, there's some safe stairs right here. So let's have Taylor come up here. Taylor, who do you work for?
Disruptive advertising.
Disruptive advertising. So we know disruptive advertising. They're in our area. They're in Utah County. So Taylor, we're going to come over here. This is Josh. He's one of our researchers. And he's going to lead you through a calibration process. So the eye tracker's at the bottom of the screen. We're going to have it find her eyes first. And then we're going to show her some stimuli. So Josh is going to show you what that calibration process looks like. It's a short process to capture her results. Then we'll walk through them and we'll say, what do we do with this actionable data? So Josh, you want to go from there?
Okay.
Do you want that microphone?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
And so what we'll be doing is we're going to go over the calibration process. So we're right there, you can see your eyes. And so those are your eyes in real time. And so what we'll be doing is we're going to run the calibration. You're going to see a gray screen. with a white circle and then a black dot within that. And it's just gonna kind of move across the screen, and you're just gonna follow it with your eyes to calibrate, and then we'll jump into the study after that. So I'll start the calibration now.
And those are her eyes, those 2 green spots. She could even wink at you. So she's going to follow the calibration. You'll see what she's seeing.
Okay, calibration was good. So we're gonna go into the next portion of this. So I'm gonna show you a series of stimuli, and that's all the context I'll give you, and we'll start that now.
Great, okay. What,
Okay, you can relax.
Very nice, Taylor. Good job. Thanks for playing along. You're still up here, though.
okay.
You need to stay right there in the hot seat because we're going to ask you for some feedback on this. So you've got a microphone right there in front of you. We're going to replay her results. And this is something we typically do. Once we've captured it, then we like to replay it to the participant. And we like them to walk us through why they looked at certain things. We don't want to assume that we know why Taylor did what she did. So that's why we want to get it in her words. So Taylor, we're going to show you your eye tracking. It's the gaze plot. It's the order in which she looked at this ad. Remember, it has a numerical order to it. So they'll pop up as circles. Circle with 1, 2, 3, 4. We know the numerical order in which she looked at this. The bigger the circle, the longer she looked there. Look to see if she came back to areas as well. Because when you come back to areas, you can say, oh, they liked it. That was so interesting. Might not be the case, right? She might have said that was the weirdest thing. So, Taylor, we're going to have you. Josh is going to start replaying your results. Okay. And before he does, you probably notice this is only 6 seconds. That is based on science in neuromarketing. That simulates you going through a magazine, basically, and turning the pages. And so that's why it was only 6 seconds on each one. Okay? So let's see how she did looking through her magazine. First ad. So tell us what you were thinking here.
I was thinking the guy was making a really creepy face and I didn't like it. And then his head was blowing up, and then noticed that it was an Old Spice commercial.
Okay. Let's see where else she looked. Now, he's trying to sell a product there. Did you know what product that was before now?
Not until I looked at
Listen
the
to her.
bottom corner. Not really.
Yeah. Okay, so you're trying to sell a product here. You've got a lot going on in this ad, don't you? There's a ton to see. We're trying to see if this would capture her attention long enough to get her to want to look at it longer. What did you think? Tell us some other thoughts about this experience, this ad.
I feel like it was just a little bit distracting. There was too much going on, and I could not tell you what he was selling within the first, 4 seconds even. I think I probably would have clicked off at that point.
Okay, not what some of you would want to hear if this was your company or your product, right? But this is real life. This is the type of information you get from us. We can tell you where she was looking, how she felt about it, what would be her next move on it. She said that she's basically bailing on it at this point, right? Yeah, we had a company that they lived and died by their website. It's a company here in Utah, and they do about $2 billion a year. And they said, you know, we're pretty good at this e-retailing stuff. We've got this down. We ran a study on their website, and we found that when we had people go and try to do a final purchase, they only had one call to action on the purchase page, and it said complete order. And so people were confused by that. and they would look up here, then they'd come back and say, how do I get this purchase done? And as soon as their CEO saw that, she about died. Her name was Stormy Simon. Anybody recognize that name? Yeah, and she stopped the meeting right there and she said, folks, we're too close to our business. We don't see it objectively anymore. We thought that was a great website, a great purchase page, and these people that created this probably thought this was a great ad. And the CEO would probably die at this moment, and just like Stormy Simon did, and say, we're too close to our business. We don't see it objectively. We thought this was a great ad. Taylor says, it's not a great ad. This is not what I would want to go with. Any other comments on this before we go to the next ad?
I'm just glad my thing is blocking his face. So.
Very nice. So the face really did creep you out a lot
It
then.
did, yeah.
Okay,
Just
let's go
weird.
from there. Next ad. Tell us your thoughts here and the order in which you looked at these beverages.
I want to say the first thing I looked at was the AHA or the bubbly one, just because I recognized it, and then I said, "Oh, LaCroix," because I drank LaCroix, and then figured out what the flavors were. I could be wrong about that.
Okay, let's take a look at your results there. So once again, we are trying to analyze what she did look at, but it's just as important what she didn't look at. If you put together this can on the LaCroix and you're thinking, okay, she's familiar with LaCroix, did she look at it less, possibly, because she's familiar with it? Maybe she's seen it a million times, right? So she doesn't spend as much time. That's what we have to ask her about and find out, wait, why not as much time on LaCroix? What do you think? I've kind of led you on that, but does that play into this at all?
I tend to gravitate toward things that are more minimalistic, personally, so I think the simpler cans were just easier to digest and read, and LaCroix had a lot going on, so even though I knew about it, yeah.
So you see, the eye tracking alone is giving us quantitative data. Really, if I showed you how this breaks down, it would be a huge spreadsheet with all these numbers. That's the quantitative side of this. The qualitative side is what we're doing, asking about her impressions. What would she do? That's why we supplement it with the interview questions. It's called retrospective think aloud. Why did you do what you did? Why did you look at what you did? Any other comments on any of these cans that you liked or did not like?
I think the biggest thing is I realized it was an orange flavor because there's a fruit on there, and I think that's why it was the first thing I looked at.
Okay, so very important. The minimalist approach too, that's an important verbatim that she mentioned, that's what sticks out to her. Let's go to the next one. All right, little mac and cheese. So Taylor, before we show your results, do you have a favorite mac and cheese out of these three?
Kraft.
Okay, and why is that?
I have not tried the other two, but I really like Kraft mac and cheese.
Okay, very nice. Okay, so before we get too far, so she said Kraft. Who knows what the Kraft smile is? Anyone? Do you now see it? Some of you are kind of looking at that, look like I didn't know there was one. So we have a vice president that works at our university. He came from industry like myself, is teaching in academia like myself, and he was the vice president at Kraft and at Nestle. And he about dies every time that we show this study because they put millions of dollars behind the Kraft smile. We're going to see if Taylor noticed it. Some of you, I could tell, it was just over your head. You're going, there, what Kraft smile? But we're going to see what took place there and see if it was worth the money for Kraft to do this all these years and all those dollars. So Taylor, it's all on you.
Oh, goody.
See if you can save Kraft. Didn't really put much focus on it, looks like. Tell us about your viewing of this. What was going on there?
I don't even know. I think I noticed it was mac and cheese because Kraft came up and then just looked at the other brands and then what the pictures of the noodles look like. I mean, Kraft was most engaging in their imagery, so I just kept looking at that box.
Okay. What's your hunger level right now?
I'm pretty hungry.
Yeah, we can tell because look at the noodles. We tend to find that when someone spends some time looking at the noodles, they're usually a little bit hungry. So you got to think about when you do the testing, what time of day are you doing this? What time are you running your commercials during the day to get people interested in your product? These are things that eye tracking can tell us, or these different tools. Let's see what else. Did you notice that this is Annie's is rabbit approved?
No.
Does anybody notice that? Is that how you choose your mac and cheese, if it's rabbit approved? Because that's what the seal is, you guys. It says rabbit approved, and I'm so glad they put that on there, because I think we need to know that. No one tends to look at that. So why are we wasting that real estate with something so silly to put rabbit approved? Taylor, is there an elephant in the room here? Or on the screen? Look at her. She's kind of like.
Oh, there's a cow. Thank you. There's a cow or something over here.
So the
Oh,
elephant.
there's an
looks
elephant. Oh my gosh, I didn't even see him.
yeah. So the elephant looks like a
That
cow.
was so embarrassing.
But hey, you're doing good though, because this is important information for Back to Nature to hear. These things that if you think it's a cow, they think it's an elephant, then maybe the artwork needs some work. But a lot of people miss the elephant. Why are we putting that on there when most people don't even notice it? These are all questions you've got to have. So you're putting together this packaging, and you might not have the best components for your packaging. Keep the ones that are capturing attention, they're reinforcing your brand, but some of these other ones, they can go. You don't need those anymore. Look at some of the things she didn't look at, the components. So Taylor, anything stand out there that, what else would you say that was important to you?
That was important to me?
Yeah.
Well, I would assume the brand Back to Nature. I didn't even look at the logo, and that's a majority of the box.
It was organic. Yeah, that's right.
Who knew? Not me.
So, and when you look at some of the details, you see that little green seal at the bottom on Back to Nature.
Yeah, that's the cow.
We wonder if that worth keeping or not. There's so many components that probably aren't worth keeping that you could say, let's do something different. But these are companies that have big marketing teams. They've got all sorts of money. Guess what? They get it wrong, right? They don't always get it right. And I'll bet you, if we talk to a lot of them, you would say, do you do testing on this? They probably don't. We go with our gut, number one. Well, your gut's kind of hit and miss at times. But, we're not saying don't use your gut. We're saying supplement it with data so that you can say this is why we did that with the rabbit. Why do we still stick with the elephant on the Back to Nature? Let's go to the other ad here. Taylor, what is this ad for?
Archery. An archer thing.
An archer thing. Yep, it is an archer thing.
Oh, a CBE bow sight.
Yeah, but did you know that the first time?
I just figured that out.
Yeah. You know what? Probably like us, most of us in here, right? You look at this ad and it's so camouflaged. Do you see the mountains in this ad?
Very faintly.
Okay. A lot of people didn't even realize there were mountains in the ad, I'm sure. There's the water. And then what is this, as you look at this, what are you getting from it that this device is? You're close. I mean, you're on the right track with archery, but are you getting closer to?
For hunting?
Yep, for hunting.
Hunting what?
Yeah, so it's a bow sight that goes on your bow, and a lot of us wouldn't have known that at first glance. Anybody know what it was right away? Usually it's our hunters that know that. So are you a hunter? Yeah. So you got to think about, if you're going to go with this ad, where are you going to place it? Somewhere that the hunters can recognize it. But if she wants to buy it for a friend, she's so confused on what this thing even is, right? Just like most of us. So Taylor, you're just like the rest of us. Let's see if she cares about what's free. Let's see if she cares about the QR code through her eye tracking. And Taylor, tell us what was going on as you looked at this.
I honestly was trying to figure out what this was for the whole time. But I did see that something was free. So
Yeah.
I did like that.
Yeah. So that's when you put these components on your ad, you've got to think about, do they capture attention? Are they really making a positive impression? Is it worth doing the QR codes? I know the QR codes, it seemed like they went out of fashion for a while, then they came back with the Super Bowls, and so I think the jury's still out on that. I want you to think about, look at the areas where there's a lot of text. We find that people, unless they have a lot of interest, won't read the text. They may skim it real quick, but she didn't really get down there very long, didn't have a lot of interest, because she's spending too much time trying to figure out what this darn device is, right? Taylor, you're just like the rest of us. I've done hunting before. This ad is a confusing ad for most of us. Anybody like it? Not really, even those that were hunting. Oh, tell us what you liked about it. Yeah. Okay. Oh, clever. Yeah, I like that. Then that's how they would probably explain it, the creators behind it, right? So think about, our job is to help you figure out what works in an ad, what doesn't, get you the best effective ad. And there's a lot of ads out there that people are just winging it. And we're saying, why don't you put data behind your decisions? Because we have the tools to do it these days. So let's go out of this. So now you've had a chance to experience what most chief marketing officers, CEOs have not experienced. We get them in on tours all the time, and they said, where has this technology been? Why are we not utilizing this more often? We've been in business the last 8.5 years, and we are one of the premier labs in the country. We have Penn State that was with us for 2 days, shadowing us, saying, we want to be like you, University of Alabama, University of Southern Illinois, the list goes on, because this is so cutting edge. And they are just catching on to testing their marketing campaigns with the most modern research available. So we give you not only the quantitative information, you get the qualitative information, the verbatims that are important as well. So when we do a study, we usually test about 25 people in the study. Very different than when I teach a class on surveys and I say to get a p-value of 0.05, we need to have 384 responses. We can get that same type of accuracy by testing 25 people. And so they'll be in it with us for about 45 minutes. They come to the lab. We have them sign a consent form. We usually compensate them. If you're going to come and be in a study, it's usually $50 to $100 on the way out the door. So we have to pay people to come and participate. We try to tailor it to the demographic that you're marketing to. And then we test those people over a week. And we collect all the eye tracking, all the verbatims as well. They have a pre-test survey that tells us their demographics, post-test survey that tells us a lot of information about what did they like about the website, what did they not like, things like that. And then we put that in, we do analysis on it through SPSS, we use R, and we do verbatim analysis. And then our preference is to deliver this in a PowerPoint. No one wants to read a 200-page report. But if I can show you a PowerPoint with the real-time eye tracking and say this was working, this one wasn't, and then your developers can come in and change it right away. So that's what we do in our work. We do work for the Utah Office of Tourism. All of those commercials that you see that drive people to Utah for tourism, they've been tested through our lab. Mountain Time, Mighty 5, we just did their latest campaign that'll be up for Southern Utah here in the next short time. They test those with us because they want to be good stewards with your tax dollar and use the most advanced marketing research. So we work with all sorts of sizes of companies, the Adobes of the world, the Purple Mattress, the list goes on, down to smaller ones as well. So any questions? I know we're about out of time on this. What have I not covered? Yes, sir.
Okay, got 2 questions. Do you guys ever do eye tracking on your PowerPoint results?
Actually, we have not done that on our results.
Go, okay.
On the results, yeah.
That was more of a joke thing.
Yeah, I like it.
What about mobile? Because most
Yes.
of our customers are using a phone.
Yes.
So how do you do the analysis on mobile experiences?
So what we have is we have an eye tracking stand that holds the mobile phone. And so it has the eye tracker built into it as well so that we can run the same type of analysis. So you have the stand instead for the phone. Or if you're using an iPad, same way. Yes, ma'am.
Sort of in the similar vein, have you you tested against someone who's sitting in your lab who is accompanied by another person and is sort of expecting to look at things, as opposed to someone just maybe sitting on their couch, scrolling through their laptop, like, is it different because of, like, in a more natural environment or, you know, in the lab?
Yeah, it's a little bit of variance, but not to the degree you would think, because people get involved in the study just like Taylor, and a lot of that, you guys went away. You'd say, well, there's so many variables, you know, there's 50 variables sitting in the room, and she eventually just kind of isolated you guys out. And so in the beginning, when we're testing someone, the first few maybe fixations, they might feel like, okay, this environment is fake. But for the most part, your eyes go to what interests them. You have the emotion as well that you're going to have. And it's hard to fake it out. You can't say, I'm not going to look at that baby on that poster. Too late, you already did. You know, or you already had that emotion. So we do take that into account and say, can we make the environment as real as possible? Just like going through the car dealership, it was best to go there and not just do a bunch of footage and then have them watch it on a monitor. So we do try to go with that. We try to get the demographic that you're looking for. But believe it or not, my closing remarks on this, even though I'm a baby boomer, some of you are Gen Zs, Gen X, millennials, the results are not that much different. That baby poster, you think, okay, you're male, I'm female, I'm going to be more nurturing. The results are not as drastic as you think. For the most part, most of us were drawn to the same parts of that poster, to the baby's face. It's a little bit of variance, but not to the degree that we would think. So we're pretty similar as human beings. What captures our attention?
One more question. Is race a factor in your, like your demographics and everything?
What was the first?
Race?
Race. We do look at, we look at race.
Color, eye color.
So we don't see a difference in the eye tracking based on eye color. Usually where we see a difference is basically different where we see it with races. If people have, their eye isn't as large to where the eye tracker has a hard time because it shoots an infrared beam in your eyes and back on the screen.
And I'm sort of asking, like, does unconscious bias
Yeah.
into the way that we look at ads, and is that a measure that you can show a company, say you're trying to sell a certain type of product to a certain type of demographic? Does race play into your target audience or the expected outcome?
It doesn't really affect the results that much, not as much as you would think. So but attitudes towards certain things. So drinking here in Utah, you know, that could influence it where people, maybe they don't believe in drinking and we're showing, beer ads. That we have to take into account. But in general, most of what we do, there's not a big variance between genders, race, age. It's closer than you would think. A little bit of variance, but not extreme like we would think. But that's why we try to get the demographic you're shooting for. So do I have time to take any more questions, or I'm zeroed out? We're okay? Okay?
This is a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's the typical budget for a brand to come to hire you guys to do some of this?
Yeah, so great question. So typically is what we'll do is we'll sit down with you, we'll put together a proposal, and we'll say, let's test 30 people. The first 5 are pre-tests. That's our dress rehearsal to say, we want you here, we want you to see how we're doing the testing. That's where we can make any changes. The next 25, we can't make any changes on. We have to lock it down so it's consistent across those last 25 because we want to get a high confidence level in the data. So you've got to pay those people at least $50. So 30 times 50 is $1,500 right out of the gate. And then if it was just eye tracking, this team, it's going to take them 2 to 3 weeks to do it. So you're paying a team. It's $8,500 for sure. And then if you say, well, I want EEG on top of it, the EEG complicates it even more to where all of a sudden we're at $14,500 for it. Now, if you're doing a $1 million commercial, you're saying that's chump change, right? You're saying, I'll hedge my bet. I'll give you $14,500 to make sure it's effective, that we don't have a Jennifer Lopez story, right? To where we go, oh, it's going to cost a lot more. So our studies typically range from $8,500 up to $30,000. Where it goes towards $30,000 is when people say, well, I want different arms to the study. I want 30 people of this type of person. I want 30 people of this. And all of a sudden, we're testing more people, and it just gets bigger and bigger. And so that's So it's right in that range. So you got to make sure that really the benefit outweighs the cost. And you can keep going with what you're doing and say, you know, we're doing pretty good, but could you do a lot better? That's the thing. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know. We help you to do better. And so, any other? Yep.
So the biometrics seems to be like a very reactive response to people looking at it. So are you able to advise companies proactively and say like, avoid X, Y, and Z before you even shoot the thing to avoid us having to tell you that
Yes.
you did it wrong, you know?
Yeah, we
How do
can
you-
consult
how do you
with
handle
them.
that? Like, yeah, like in consulting, because are they bringing you something that's already created and you're able to tell them what's wrong with it?
Right.
But are you able to tell them up front what to avoid to, you know, to get to those points where
Yeah. So we have a company that, just along those lines right now, they have an app that they're coming out with. They came on a tour. We said, okay, these are things you want to keep in mind as you put the final touches on that app. A lot of things we can test in a storyboard format too before you're too far in, but we can do it at different stages as well and help you avoid those mistakes. It doesn't always have to be fully baked to where you're saying, great, what do I do with Jennifer Lopez now, right? Yeah. So but our recommendation is come on a tour to the UVU Smart Lab. It's on campus in a beautiful building, not far off of the freeway. Talk to us. Worst case, it's a fun-filled trip, right? But we're all about doing what's right for you guys as customers. I don't have revenue goals as being part of the university. The biggest part for us is the experience it gives our students. And then what does it mean for them as they leave the university and they go on to the PhD programs, the MD programs, they get great jobs. They know the most advanced marketing research that's available. That's the biggest payoff. The awards are nice. It helps to validate us with a little bling. We'll be back here in 2 weeks getting some more bling. I like that. I like the fact we make money because that helps me to employ another student for a year part-time to give them this experience. So that's the payoff for us. So thank you for sticking around. If you have any questions, let us know. I know Jessica Alba is going to be a big draw. We're going to go there as well. But any of the researchers in the white lab coats are available too if I can't talk to you. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dale. That was fantastic.